Welcome to Shop Talk, presented by Show Chic, where they always put the rider in first place.
Yes, we're going to talk about training of horses and a little long lining, a little bit of horsemanship, and how to read horses in our view. And first of all, we should introduce each other. So maybe if you would like to start, Richard.
Okay. I'm from Sweden. My name is Malmgren in Swedish, and I lived there for about 25 years before I came to the United States, and was raised on a horse farm. My father competed advanced jumping and eventing, did the famous school in Sweden, Flyinge, and so I was, trained in that sort of cross-training of learning all the different kinds of disciplines. And in Sweden, every little village has a riding club, so you go there and you kind of study the horses. Anyway, and then I moved to the United States and worked for 8 years at Hilltop Farm, and then I worked 6 years for Hasler Dressage, and then I've worked 5 years now for my own business. So then I married into some fame by marrying J.J. Tate. So that's kind of my story.
Okay, yes. My name is Jenå, if you should say it in Swedish, but I have given up, so everybody says Jenå, and that's okay. I'm also born in a village with a lot of horses, Flyinge. My father worked at Flyinge over 43 years, and I have also worked out over 43 years, and I have been a head teacher in dressage and long lining, and educated a lot of stallions, and competed up to Grand Prix level. I have also competed here in Devon and out in the old White Fences Arena, McFields. And I worked here between 02 and 03 as a trainer. I was down here in Wellington and then up in Illinois. And nowadays I'm long lining a lot, and I'm a 4-star judge, FI judge. And I'm a judge educator in Sweden for the Prince and George judges. I'm the head judge in the stallion program. Where we test stallions next week. We're starting with that, and it's very interesting work. And I'm chef de keep for a Swedish team, and I follow them around the whole world, and that's very fun. I have been that since 08, so that's a little bit. And I have seen a lot of all kind of horses, but a lot of stallions. I know a lot about the stallions. We educate a lot of stallions. We make them ready for the testing, stallion test, and then we compete them, and then all from the young ones. So we're going to talk a little bit about the whole scale of this classical. We start with the long lining, so that we are going to talk about the way we're doing it. That it is a way that we learn it out. I learn it out to the students at Flyinge, and this is a famous the writer Yngve Fipke. He was very successful in the late 50s and 60s. He was in the Olympic Games with Gaspari, a stallion who had produced a lot of Grand Prix horses. I know that Herbert Raybank was very. I liked him a lot. He said we don't need to learn a Gaspari horse Piaffe Bazaar. It's just to do it. So that Gaspari blood had a lot of talent for this collection that most of the Grand Prix riders like a lot. And he had learned me, and I have worked a lot with Richard about long lining, and we have a system that we go from like ABC that the horse should know and respond to before we go into the next step. So
I just want to I just want to talk a little bit more about like this thing about horsemanship and the way in Sweden, you know, like I said, there was these riding clubs, and you bicycle to the riding club after you finish school, and you hang out there and you basically apprentice with the certified trainers, because in Sweden you have to go through the certified program to become a riding school instructor. And so you're being brought up by seeing, you know, all this thing of how the horses are handled, how you keep an eye on symptoms for a colic, and all these things are just becomes a daily thing that you're exposed to by going to the barn after school every day. And at the end of the day, you know, I've never met somebody that could speak horse, you know, but you have to read their body language, and so by then going and seeing how they're doing, working with them, turning them out, bringing them in, and all these things, that you really learn how they are, working as an animal. And that's, again, comes in so much later to working with the long lining, because, you know, you get a chance to see the horse from a perspective that you don't have when you ride it, you know. And then also you use your body language to communicate with it, you know. So I just think that, you know, being around the horses and seeing it. And then when you do these riding clubs, you don't specialize in dressage. You know, you do everything. It's like jumping, eventing, dressage. You do vaulting. We have something in Sweden called gymkhana, which is like you ride the horse into small games where you usually ride them bareback, you know, and so all these things is how you really get balance, you know, and oodles of time in the saddle without stirrups, you know, because again, it's two athletes that needs to find each other and become a unit, you know. So again, for me, that's just been such a big influence to be able to have been doing all these things, even though later on my career went into the dressage, you know. Like I said, I had the influence from my father of really sort of cross training becoming a big importance. So
yes, about cross training, it's very, very important that you let your young horses and even older horses do more than just work at the indoor or outdoor or where you are, because it's so important for them to see some other things. They have to be inspired with the nature, and you can use small hills up and down to get one step further if you are clever with the horse, and not only the horse who is not hot can be very bored to be in the same ring. You can imagine if you go into the same room, a grey room without windows, every day and do the same, and your teacher said more. We are not satisfied yet. One more. And then, well, not every horse thinks that's fun. So it's so important that you use cavaletti and small X or bigger jumps if you would like, but do something, not only riding or long lining at the same spot. About reading horses that Richard mentioned here, it's so important that we, in Sweden, my opinion is that young people in Sweden anyway, sometimes their parents take care of maybe too much for them. They drive them from the school to the riding school or to the place where they have their horse. they help them to do the horse ready, or the horse is standing ready, and they ride, and then they'll go right home again and do the homework. That the homework is important, but to learn how a horse works, how the horse feels, and how the horse acts, you have to see and you have to practice. So if you don't practice to do that things, the basic things with the horse yourself, and it takes a very long time for you to be like a horseman or horsewoman to find out how to handle if you buy a new horse and they say, well, it's so kind, it's a wonderful horse, and the second day you don't recognize the horse because it's maybe not so kind, and then you have to find out what to do. And it's not every time you have a trainer or a person that you can ask how to do. So really let the young people practice a lot to learn how to handle horses. And the body language is very, very important. I do not know anymore because I have no time, but I do a liberty work with horses, have them to bow and lie down and sit, and communication with the horse loose. That's very, very interesting, that you can really get close to the horse, and the horse, when they understand what you would like them to do, that's a new world, promise. So a little bit of that is very important. So already start when you take the halter on the horse and you should go out, and you have to tell the horse that I'm the boss, I'm the leader, and you follow me now out to the paddock, and you stay when I stop, and you go when I go, and you turn around. And that's, I mean, no discussing about that. You have to let the horse drag you around the whole area before he finally find the paddock he would like to go into. So that's very important, that you are the leader, also in the long line.
Yeah, and I just, I always say to people, like, no horse stands around 23 hours and 15 minutes to think how he or she can be bad for those 45 minutes. They don't. So it's so much about, like, trying to make it as black and white for them. And again, leadership, and clarity, has nothing to do with force or strength. It's about finding this communication with the horse and get him to understand, because we have such a developed brain. We have to think about the horse and his or her brain, and it's not to be derogatory, but it's not as developed as ours. So we then have to really think about making it as much black and white when we are communicating with it, with the stops and go. And when I came to the United States, Hilltop, we had a couple of clinics with natural horsemanship. We had Josh and John Lyons, and I've been other natural horsemanship people too. And you can always learn in our sport. It's not, well, I don't do that, but you can always sort of incorporate certain small little thing, and that was just something that we did with the natural horsemanship, because we took some of their tools that they had taught us to how to really present horses at breed shows, and getting the youngsters and the yearlings and the 2-year-olds, because that's a big thing here and not very big in Europe to do. And so we could incorporate some of the things that they had taught us to then train them to do the triangle at breed shows and stuff. And but then also knowing that eventually they're going to be riding horses, so it's again blending certain things. And I just, one of my big idols beside Bo, of course, is Kara Kirkland, and she always says this thing about how you have to create your own, cake, because you can get ingredients, but at the end of the day, you gotta bake it yourself. We are all individuals here, and so you could train with me for X amount of years, but yeah, a lot of things are going to be the same, but you're not me. We don't have the same experience, and we don't have the same reactivity and stuff. So we all have to become our own best horsemen and horsewomen. You know?
And before we take the next step, I think we should show the
Yep.
Richard have a good brand of a surcingle. It's of course Swedish. And I have long line for over 43 years, and Richard maybe 30, I don't know, maybe more. So it's we know what we want, and this is what we want. The surcingle has to be, if you show them, so you could adjust them over the horse's back, and they fits. I mean, I will say 99% of all horses, and there are rings enough here. Three rings that you can, or very short, that if the horse is try to go too high with the neck and drop the back and don't use in the back, you go up and we test in the neck or the horse here, then you put the your reins down. If the horse is falling down and being too low or too short and don't want to take the contact in front where you would like to have it, then you have to go a little bit up. So this part here, it's my design, because I need a ring up here. This is similar to where you have your hand when you're riding, maybe a little bit higher than your hand, but if you have your outside rein through this ring to the bit, then you have a very good, like a racing effect of the outside rein. And some horses need that, not everybody. And of course, leather reins and not textile, or what you say?
Nylon. Yeah.
Nylon, yeah. Because if some horse runs away or step on it, the leather break. But the nylon maybe not, and then it could be very dangerous for the horse. And then we have these small snaps here, also bought in Sweden. But you can find them here, I think. Where is the shoshi? Do we have this? We have to ask them.
Oh, and then
Have you this for sale? Oh, you should have. Then you have to bring them home.
up here.
So we can send all the long lining people to you. Okay, then we have this like a ring, normal ring. You can go to
Tractor
whatever.
Supply.
Yeah, and then this part is like if you have a drop noseband, you can have like a flash or spur. What you say?
Spur strap, yeah.
Spur straps. So that's good.
But it's like an extension.
Yeah. So that means that we take the inside rein through this ring, through the bit from the outside, back to the girl, and then it's more. You have the horse more correct, flexed in the neck, instead of to have the rein from the bit brought to your hand. Then the horse can do this, put the neck out and just turn. But now the rein go a little bit back, and then makes that it's very hard for the horse to drop the shoulder or not flexed in the correct way. With this, it's a big difference to have this outrigger. It's also a name that we find out, and or not. Some horses who are younger, a little bit shy to take the contact, maybe you should not have it the first time. But then
that's also about reading the horse, you know. Again, every horse is an individual, just like all of us. So just because you do something with one horse doesn't mean that it's going to go exactly the same way with another horse, which is, you know.
And also, we don't have the girth
girth
with us, but it's an elastic girth, and that's also very good. It's the only one in the market I know so have an elastic girth. And this, 8,5 meter. 8.5 Swedish meter is the length of this. So Jessica, if you can count out that, then we can let you know. So, but don't have them too short, and of course not too long. And not, if you go to a saddle maker, don't let them make them too heavy, because then you get tired. And we have not a whip here, but a whip is very light with a long lash. I think that's good. We can also have like a driving whip which is longer with a short lash. But if you can handle one with a long lash, you can use it close to the shoulder. You can use it behind the horse, and the horse. This is a little bit of not your leg, but your
driving
your
aid.
arm. Yeah. So it's very important that when you use your body language and the whip, the horse knows exactly. Okay, I know. Or if they don't understand, maybe you have to do it again and repeat, and then they say, well, okay, then I go away, or go forward, or something else. So a whip who is good is a very light whip. And I would say a few things with when I often have a question, when can I start my young horse? And if it's a stallion and it's going to be pro stallion, then for sure you have to start the horse when it's 2.5. And that's early. But if the horse is a good conformation and you have handled the horse, you have maybe put the bridle on the horse and take him out for a hack, and he knows about the bridle, and you think he's ready to do something. You can see, sometimes you can see the horse would like to do something. This is boring. And then I prefer to take the horse on the launch line and a very light side reins, maybe this rubber, very light anyway, and very long. So the horse feels the contact to the bit. So really feel that something moved a bit in his mouth. And with that, maybe 2 times, 3 times, then it's time to long line. And then I will put the inside rein direct to the inside bridle, the bit ring.
Yeah, the bit, yeah.
The bit on the inside and direct to my hand. And the outside in the middle ring, so it's not a bit too high, and then also direct to my hand. Nothing else. And then just like launching the horse the first time, and then maybe follow him in the walk, close to the wall. That's the step 1. And if the horse is 2.5, 3, 3.5, doesn't matter, it's up to you. But if you start early, then you have to be really sure that the horse is ready to do that. When the horse is 3, for sure it's ready. If it's not too big and you see that it's growing, then fine. And another thing with the young horses, that when you all know that the horse is growing until it's 7, and that's the periods when the horse is not feel good in the body, and then you have to, when you feel that when you're riding along and well, this is not correct today. Okay, let the horse go out for 14 days. Just don't touch it, just leave it. Rest and no work for 14 days, and then you can try again, because they are in the horse is not building muscles when it's in training. The horse grow and build muscles when it's resting. So that you have to have these 14 weeks periods in between all the training, especially with young horses. There's often that riders who don't understand better, they complain about the horses. Have you heard that? It's so stiff in my right rein, okay? And it's so strong, and it's so against my leg. And there's always a reason for that. And sometimes the reason could be that the horse needs a little rest, especially when it's young. And that it's very important. Okay.
Yeah. No, and I mean, and then as far as then setting up and start, getting the long lining, when you have a new horse that you never worked with, that whether it's 6, 7, 8, it's when the first time being long line by me, I consider it, green, because I don't know. They might say it has been long line, but I know it's not by me, so I got to approach it, in my systematic way of getting the horse to understand, our system, of long lining, and how I, put the reins. And again, what I always say is that it's riding from the ground. Long lining is riding from the ground. It has nothing to do with lunging. sometimes people can think it's like double lunging. Isn't it a little bit like lunging? No, because when you lunge a horse, you really have no control over the horse. It's controlled freedom. You have something that's attached to him, but you can't influence how his shoulders, and you can't, to the degree that you can when you long line. So it is important that you go and read the horse's body to make him aware that we have an outside rein, that I can actually control your shoulders now, and that we start moving around a little bit in the arena. And it's important that it's an enclosed arena, so should the horse get loose, that he's not going to disappear. That's something that I'm a big stickler about, is that there is an enclosed arena when you work. But you start moving the horse around so that the horse can understand that you have an outside rein, and then that you have a whip that is a forward driving aid, and then that your body language, which is very hard to really show since we don't have a horse and we can't have a picture, but our position is like 3/4 behind the horse, far enough away from the hind leg that he's not going to kick you, and yet close enough with our long lining whip that we can influence the horse on it. And so that's the first real step about like making the horse just understand. And I always say, it's like, if you can't do this in walk, you're not going to be successful in trot or canter. So and then you got to read. If the horse is apprehensive about the reins, about where you are and stuff, then you got to obviously go slower into moving up into faster paces, But most of them, again, none of the horses are, wanting to be bad. They're, really want to be good and try to understand what it is we're asking. And so the more clear we can be, then the better the result comes. So.
Then we have horses who try to don't understand. they are smart animals. They think they're very smart. So they try to get away from. They are a little lazy like we are. So if they can take a shortcut and don't need to go, they try that. So you have to take step by step to influence them to work more and more. But I totally agree with Richard. You have to be very clear with your body language, and especially I would say with young horses, if you get too close to the front and maybe sometimes a little bit ahead of them, they stop, and then they look at you, and then they maybe spin around and they look again and say, what are we going to do now? Because the reins are around the neck. Then you have to take a look and start again. So that's not a big problem, but that could happen very quick, and absolutely don't take any risk to get too close to the hind, because if they are a little uncomfortable with the situation and they don't see where you are, and they can be afraid of something and they kick very quick. So helmet, all the students at Flyinge have to have a helmet and gloves, and first of all, to have the horse stay out on the outside rein and stop, and then steer. And they should, even a 2.5 and 3-year-old horse, have to stay still out on the circle and wait for you to say the next step is okay, well, walk or trot or go on. If you can't stop the horse out there and say, hey, listen, then you can't do it in trot. So walk, stop. This is for me the big thing. And also a lot of transitions. And transitions is follow the horse and the rider and the long line of the whole line. And I was in Hagen last year, and Christina Spreyer with the famous stallion Desperados, who was in many of the teams from Germany for many years. And she was training in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was there with some of the Swedish riders. And she spent like 15-20 minutes to do a trot walk transition with this Grand Prix International top stallion to warm up. And that was many normal riders maybe need to understand that the transitions is not just when you should take a break or when you should do something else. That is a really exercise to do a good transition from trot with the hind legs first and then from walk to the trot with the hind legs first. It's very important. If you can do that with your young horse and in the long line and riding, then it's easier for you in the show ring. Because if you're not able to do it in the training, then you read the test, well, transition, okay, and not so good. So you have to train and build up strength in the horse with these transitions. And it makes the horse also to listen to a small signal. And your voice and your body language and your whip is the key for being successful. And if we should say something about the leg jilts that I put in, not for the young ones, but quite like if it's 4 years old, and it's ridden like half a year anyway, then you can ask the horse to in-walk, to go away from you. And how to explain that is much easier if you have a horse here.
Yeah. But
now we try to do it without horses. So if you mention that you go up on the quarter line, everybody knows what the quarter line is. Yes. And then you would like to go from the quarter line to the wall, say you're in left rein, and you give the horse signal with your outside rein, the right rein. And often the horse gets against and say, don't take in my mouth. Then you list with their young stop, and they just go forward. And they say no, and you say maybe one more time no, and then you have to do a halt with the horse. And then you ask again, and then the horse often go backwards, maybe 3-4 steps backwards. Then you have the whip say no, not backwards. And he was not allowed to go forward. When my hand said no, and the whip said no, backwards, then he said, well, this exit to the right, I think I take that. Then the horse goes slowly sideways to the wall. And then you have to give and talk with him. Maybe stop if he had been a little complicated, and pat him and give him you can buy very expensive horse candies. Or you can take some grains. You can have normal sugar, that's up to you. But something, he really appreciates that, I promise. So when you can have the horse to understand this little signal that your body language with maybe the whip close to the shoulder, your outside rein, and after a few times the horse, well, this was this corner, and then, well, now I maybe have to go that way. And that's the first step to have the horse to understand and learn. After a while, it's very easy to do it in trot also. And but it can take some time, especially in one rein. Some horses, can be very stubborn and say, no, I will not go out to the wall in the right rein. I will stay a little inside. Maybe the first day you let the horse stay inside and do it in walk and say fine. Then the next day you can ask more, and then often it's gone. It's good. So I have some horses there that refuse to be on the wall in the right rein the first day. They said no way. And I said okay, I compromised that 1 meter, 2 meters inside, then fine. And then the second day they said, okay, fine. And the canter part with young horses is very important that many riders, they are so happy that they have the young horse in canter. Woohoo, it's canter. Yes, good. They pick up the canter. But after the first few times of course you have to let the horse find the balance themselves and so on. But when the horse is more trained, I can see many riders, they are sometimes too kind to the horses. They give on the reins and say, no, it's going to canter, so yeah, take care of yourself and then go. And we can do the same with the long line if we want. But if we want to help horse to build strength and be using the hind legs, carry on the hind legs, and start from a balanced trot through a balanced canter, you can't just give away. So you give on the inside rein, and you have a light contact on the outside rein, and many horses who have problems with this in riding, you can fix that very, not quick, but I mean it's easier to have that problem away when you long line the horse. It's very, very helpful with the long line. Yes, first
Do you use
question.
your voice when you're doing this? Like in lunging, I always used walk, trot, gallop, or whatever it sounds
Yeah.
right. Do
It
you
doesn't
use your-
matter what you're saying. You can say
That's fine.
carrot, or you can say gallop, that is
Yeah,
Swedish.
I like that. In
Yeah.
German, gallop, I say gallop.
Gallop, yeah. And I have tried with horses in Portugal and all over in Europe. And if you have just a noise that they understand, okay, fine, it can't. So the word is fine. But you have your body language have to, and your signal to the horse, forward, go. That's more important than the word.
Yeah, and then I feel like again, since we're now on a horse that's more going, and we've gotten into to process, and we're getting this into a routine and stuff. So then I feel that it is important that. So what is it that we get with the long lining? I want the horse to be owning its own body, like figuring out its own balance, not me supporting it when I ride, you know? And so you take the whole rider out of the equation, and you're still riding the horse, but the horse can't take advantage on leaning against your leg, you know, hanging in a rein, and you know, doing these evasions that every horse does, and we give them this crutch to lean on because we want it to make it feel as good as possible. So I sort of say a little bit like, you know, the horse needs to own up to its own body, just like we do when we do pull-ups, push-ups, and sit-ups. It's like, you know, we got to own up to what we are, and so much in riding is rebalance, and that's is just something that I believe that the long lining just helps the horse so much to figure out, you know, and get what I call the alignment, you know, of the horse, to not evade through his or her crookedness, you know, and then evade through his or her speed, you know, and so you control those things, and then the horse comes to the point where, okay, I'm going to focus and do it, and then it's important, obviously, to give the reward. And for me, I always believe that whether I ride or long line, is that the reward of a walk break is the most powerful reward, you know, and that you can instant do it, you know, when it's been good. And it's because again, the horse is by nature lazy. So if it did something good and then it got a reward, then you start up again. Like most of the time the horse wants to do it again so that he can then have a reward again, you know. And so that's again, you know, positive reinforcement, you know. And I'm an analogy person, so I like to just sort of describe things as similar as these things to other sports, and so I usually a lot of times like tennis players, you know, it's like they don't stand and hit serves and volleys on the court, you know, all day long. I mean, they have to practice a lot, but they also need to go to the gym, and they need to go on the roads and track and run, you know, to be overall, you know, better. And so again, a little bit the long lining can be a little bit of that gym exercise where the horse owns up to his body, you know.
And the good thing with long lining is that from the ground you can see exactly what's happened with the horse. If you are riding the horse, you have to have a very good rider from first, you have to have a very good feel, and you have to know your horse, and you maybe have to have mirror along the whole short side and maybe half of the long side, so you can really see where is the nose, where is the neck, how's the hind leg, oh, is it working, is it good? or a very good instructor on trainer on the ground will tell you what to do and when it's good. When you're long line, you see exactly if you take a half horse and the horse react, you can see, okay, fine, good reaction, I am satisfied with that, or is it too much or too less? If you use the whip, you see if the horse acts on the whip and you move your body and everything you do, and you can see the whole top line, you can see where the nose is, you can see the mouth, you can see the front leg, you can see the hind legs, and that's why we are also, when we're going, it's a different methods to do long line. If you have a very, very skilled horse that you know very well, it's a maybe upper level horse who can do a collection and maybe flying changes and so on, and the horse that you trust, who knows you, then you can go behind the horse and have the reins in another way. But if you go behind your horse when the horse don't know you and the horse is not skilled enough, you maybe, if the horse have a beautiful tail, then it's all what you see. and that can be nice, of course, but maybe not for 45 minutes. So, that's we would like to see, and the horse would like to see you. And say, okay, well, you're there, okay, fine. Then you can see all the four legs if you're going a little bit inside. And you can also, easier correct the horse than if you're behind the horse.
And when I travel around and doing this, it's like, yes, of course the horse gets a good workout, and usually, after a clinic, the rider can feel the difference of this alignment and the shifting of a weight and so forth, depending on where the level of the training is on the horse. But a lot of times, I get the fact that the person says, okay, now I get it, because I see it. And it's pretty simple, because we all learn auditorial, visual, and kinesthetic. But when we ride, we kinesthetically feel it. And then the instructor auditorial tell you, but you don't have the visual unless you video it, and then, or the instructor gets on the horse, which should be able to ride the horse better, so you think, well, it's because I'm not good enough. When I come in long line and the horse evades, because it becomes very transparent that the horse is weak on one leg and a little crooked and tries to sneak out with one on the right shoulder, then see this, aha, this is what happened, and then they see this, and then also then when they ride afterwards, it just becomes like, okay, I've seen it now I can prevent this because I saw what he did, and Richard told me what to do, because again, I am riding the horse from the ground. I would do very similar things if I was riding your horse, and that's, again, I say this all the time, you gotta ride with purpose and you gotta ride with direction, and that's the same thing when I long line. I have in my mind these figures, whether it's an octagon or pentagon, or it's a diamond shape, or even like, I go, along the quarter line, and I imagine that there is a cone over there that I just direct go there. Because then I feel if the horse drifts, well, guess what? It's not between my aids. Because then I can hold both myself and the horse accountable. And that's when you really, in my opinion, are training the horse, because you're riding with purpose and direction, And so that's again, it's not just long lining, but I do this when I long line the horses. So.
And one thing is very important that we haven't mentioned, that the horse is really would like to go to the contact, and you can push him also into the contact. But before, you have to be really sure that the horse have a bit fits the horse. Many times you see they are too wide, too sharp, too big, too small, and often they are too far down. They are not like a
two little wrinkles there.
Wrinkles here, yeah. And that is the correct way to have it. Because if the horse is a little uncomfortable with the bit and you, oh no, we have to do this, and the horse will not, I will not go into that contact. So when you should ask the horse into the contact and go into take the outside rein in a good way, in the correct way, you have to be really sure that you have a bit who especially the young horses like. And these little rubber bits, or we can do a strap with I thought I have a latex. Thank you. Latex. We can put a little latex strap on a normal bit, and then the horses really like to go into the contact after that, maybe. And that's a good way to have the horse to do that, because without a good contact and they're going to hold themselves back the whole time, then it's very hard to get the horse to work in the good way. And the frame of the horse, I have often questions when I'm with the team in the beginning anyway, out, and they say, okay, which frame do you think I should ride my horse in, and which frame do you prefer? And that's up to the horse, of course. The horse has to, how the conformation is of the horse, and what do you want the horse to do. But one important thing is in the beginning of the session, riding or long riding, that the horse is allowed to stretch down. Some horses who have maybe very short halls and not so much shoulder freedom and like to put a lot of weight on the forehand and don't using the hind legs, and they really like to take too much contact. Then maybe you should be a little careful to don't have too low in the beginning, or not too long anyway in the beginning. But the opposite horses that they like to be too high and don't use in the back, they have to be maybe 10 minutes longer in this stretching zone before you ask them to do anything with the collection. And Richard, you talked about the pool. Also, we have describing when we think it's a good stretching of the horse.
Yeah, and so for me, again, it's about learning the horse. We got to understand the species that we're working with, and how his body is functioning. So again, you can't really stretch the back open unless the pole goes below the level of the wither. And so that's, again, I say, because again, analogies, if the horse's nose could roll a soccer ball, then you have a fully stretched out back, And again, just like Bo said, every horse is different. Conformation, temperament, and all these things. And you can't, so you got to tweak all these things depending on the horse. But that's, it's so important that we get access to the horse's body. Because again, if I go to the gym and I'm going to build muscle and I already have my bicep flexed halfway and start, building it, I got to, figure out how to get the full range of motion, and that I can really, do the proper workout. So again, you ride and long line a horse with the pole or the nose or wherever you want to go on multiple different positions. For sure, in the 5.5 to 6.5 minutes of show, the pole is to be the highest point, except in stretchy trot and extended walk. But as I always say, if you watch the best ones out there, they warm up with the stretchy, they get the horse a little bit up, get it to going, then they put another stretchy down, and then they get ready to go in and they pull the horse up and they do a performance. And as I always say, the best of the best, they go back out to the warm-up. And what do? Stretch them down. The others, I wouldn't want to work with them, So it's the same thing what we're doing with the long lining. You know, we're riding it from the ground, and you need to get access to the horse's body. You know, longitudinal suppleness, then it's, you know, lateral suppleness, shifting the weight of the horse, and all this you need to then be able to incorporate so that again you can start really building the muscles. Because otherwise, as I define it, you get a leg mover and not a back mover. And, you know, I'm not going to go into more details about some of that, but
we have one tool that we use a lot because the horses are back-wheel drive. I haven't seen, some horses try to be front-wheel drive, but they are not successful. So they have to use the hind legs, they have to use them in the right way. And to have the horse to understand that in a very young age that's cavaletti, because they can't drag the hind legs and drop them down over the cavaletti. So not too high, but start low on the ground, and then you can build on and do maybe up to 5. It's a good number, and then have the horses so you have a normal size between them in the middle and the shorter in the inside. If you do it on a half circle or circle, and then on the outside the horse needs to stretch a little bit, so use the shoulders and the hind legs at the same time. And that is a very, very good exercise, a gymnastic exercise for the horse. In a little bit of a stretching frame. So the horse has to take the contact a little bit lower, with the nose in front, but still a contact. Some people who are long lining, they give away all the contact because they are so happy that the horse is not running over the cavaletti. So they give away everything, and then wow. But after a few times the horses has to be in the contact also. Same you're riding. I mean, if you do a medium trot, extended trot, and you don't give away everything, hallelujah. But you have to have the contact the whole time, and the horse has to accept the contact. And then we're going into a little bit of the collection after this. Then, in my opinion, is that we are not looking for piaffe, half steps, pass off in the beginning. You only do a little bit of a collected trot. And if the horse understands you and have a little bit of a swing, elasticity in the back, and activity in the hind legs, and you can use your voice, and you can use the whip, and you can push the horse a little bit and say, hey, come on, and then small half horse and say, what's happening if I take a half horse and say, come on, do a little bit more. Some young horses, 4.5, 5, they start to do beginning to a cadence trot very quick. Takes maybe 2 laps, and then they understand. And the horses who already the rider have tried a little bit of this collection, they maybe start in Passau very quick. The talent horses that the Grand Prix riders that we have in the corner have they all really, wow, what's that? I like this one. Because you can very easily see if the horse have talent for this or not. But every horse can, you can educate the horse to be better and better and better. And it's very important that you take this step by step. I often say that the horse gives you signals back when it's time to ask for more. If you do the small trot, the small collected trot, and the leg yielding and the shoulder forward, shoulder in at the long side, and then you ask for more. If the horse is not responding, just wait, because the horse needs maybe 3 months to half a year with this collected trot to be strong and be able to do it. Some other horses, the new modern international sport horse today is very talented. Many bloodlines, they know exactly what you're asking for, and they start directly. And that's also a problem, because people who don't understand that this is too much and way too much for the horse, they say, wow, look here, and then they take lap after lap after lap, and then the horse maybe the health is not so good, and they be way too much work for the horse. So step by step, and really give horses time enough to understand this.
Yeah, and that's I agree, and I always, when I go to a new place, somebody contacts me, I make sure right away that people understand that it's not a Piaffe and Passage thing, because that's usually what's because they see from the Spanish riding schools, and when you do demonstrations and stuff, they've seen, oh, the horse can do the Piaffe and Passage, but it is, to me, it's just so much more about just the alignment, the honesty, the horse figuring out his or her balance, and then yes, like small cadence trot. I call it a little bit just like shifting the weight, which is like even before a baby to a half step, shifting the weight, learning to again, rock back a little bit more on the haunches, and so I kind of stop the people if that's what they're in for, because I do think that if you do it, you can obviously train the horse to do the Piaffe and Passage, on the long lines, but sometimes to teach them the initial, like just the rhythm of a step, I would say it's easier to do it on a short rein, where you can walk along the horse's shoulder and teach them that way. But everybody has different ways of teaching the half steps and stuff. But I just agree with Bo that you have to really take these things gradual when you work. It's not like some kind of miracle thing that, hey, Bo came and long lined my horse and now it's so much much more leveled up. It's a process. But we all should know that, being in this industry, that if you're having a horse at 4 years of age, that if without any sort of deviances of accidents or injuries and stuff, you still have at least 6+ years on that 4-year-old until you're closing in on the highest level. And if you have some kind of deviance, there's more years until you're reaching the highest level. So it's like such a sport where you have to really think in the longevity of it, And I believe that it's very important for all of us, professionals in the industry, that we are clear about that none of us are magicians,
I had a question.
Yep.
So if you have a more trained horse, like the one you alluded to that's already doing changes, maybe, it's starting the Passage pirouettes, and if one had access to long lining on a regular basis as an adjunct to the training, which was sort of the title of tonight, what ratio of the training, like in a week, would be the riding? How often would you long line if you had it available to add to your training program? How would you incorporate it?
Yeah, I will say that all the school horses at Flyinge is long lined once a week.
Once a week.
Yeah, over cavalier. Jumping horses and dressage horses and so on. So I think all disciplines, horses, eventing and even endurance and show jumpers, and they feels good. Often the rider feels when you have long lined the horse, because they are more even on the reins and they are maybe having good work. And if you are out for looking for some special like Piaffe or Passage, then you maybe you can do it. You can warm up the horse and you can put the surf single over the saddle, and you can spend 15 minutes to just specific do that thing. And what we are looking for in the beginning, that is like transitions. It's more like not Piaffe and not Passage, but it's something between. And if the horse have learned to do close to Piaffe, close to Passage on the long lines, and they know that when I go forward, I do bigger steps and more cadence when I collect, and the horse understands and get closer to Piaffe, they have never ever a problem to do the transitions when you ride them. But some horses you can learn to do piaffe. They can be really good at piaffe, but they can only do piaffe on walk. And some horses can do piaffe and go into passage, okay. And some horses can do passage, only passage. They don't understand this piaffe. They said no way. And then they can't have problem to go into the piaffe. So all that problem is often no problems at all when you learn it by long line. So that's I have seen that so many times. So yeah.
Yeah, and then sometimes, like, you know, when you go to a clinic site and you do a 2-day clinic, you know, the first day, you know, you work through a little bit more if it's new horses and stuff. Then it's nice with the follow-up the next day. You know, it's like kind of like a two-puncher. You know, it's because, you know, then you really follow up. The horse understands the concept, and he gets quicker. So the second day can be a little shorter. You know, and again, you know, I think that I always sort of say that, because there's places where I only go, you know, every so often to do, and they don't really do it in between. But it's like, every time it still furthers the horse, because it's a little bit like a wave that then they ride on the wave, and that doesn't mean that it retracts back. They come further from this, and then they move on, you know. So any good training is going to make you progress, you know. But again, I am the first one to say there is no world championship or Olympics in long lining, so it's not a substitute to riding. If you can't ride your horse, you know, I don't know that I get able to fix it, you know, long lining, you know. It's a complement, you know, and that's why I, together with Bo, had this title, you know. It's the art of long lining and making it into a complement for training, you know. So I don't know if we should ask if there's any questions before I don't know what their time frames and stuff.
Is it easier to teach new movement to the horse on the long lines? I mean, I would think it was, because they're not interfering with the rider, but is it easier to start teaching a new movement on long lines and then follow it up with the rider? Or does it not matter?
It depends on what you would like the horse to do, of course, but I will say that the leg yield that many riders they do wrong, they bend the neck and the body, and they let the horse run without rhythm sideways. So if they do that in like a first or second level test, they get the 4 or 5, and then they maybe start to ask the trainer, you have to help me with the leg yields. So if you learn the horse to do that with a straight neck from the beginning and follow the outside rein, you can tell the rider the next day, if you have one long lining lesson and maybe a riding lesson the day after, that the outside rein, when you do the long line, it should be the same contact and the same, if they have the option to feel how it feels when you long line the horse with the outside rein. And then you can show the horse the way with your hey, come on, go to the right now and listen to my right rein. And the horse understands much easier this concept of the leg yield than if you don't long line.
And then also, just to add to that, is like, I mean, the horses were not designed to carry anything. So us climbing on top of them waxed their whole balance out. So I believe that some of the things also is easier for the horse to kind of figure out without us there, and build some strength to then be able to carry when we do get on, you know. So that's, you know, that's another sort of thing, you know.
And also pick up the canter. If you have a problem to start a young horse to get into a canter in a good way, always problem. Then you long line the horse and say, well, try this. And the horse accepts it after a few times. If you do it in a good way. Of course, your shoulders have to be soft and relaxed, and you have to have your hands like you're riding, and not stiff and no hard. You can't pull and you can't hold the horse on the bit or hold the horse in the way you would like it. So that's totally wrong, but you have to introduce the horse to take the contact in the way you like. Then the horse understands that with self-carriage that we talked about, that the horse have to take care of her own body and the balance. And then the horse, gets better and stronger if you don't support them so much. More questions?
All right, yep.
I have an equipment question. I had a hard time finding a good sourcing goal. So where would I get something like that? I have to go to Sweden?
No, I know where you can get it here. There is a person who will have it for sale. He's down here over the winter and nothing.
Yeah, because it's really hard to find well-made sourcing goals.
Yeah. No, and I say this all the time. It's like you have to have the right equipment to do it, because it's, safety is a huge factor in doing this. And just if you're going to do it, like, you need to have a forgiving horse. You need to have a horse that you can learn to just follow the horse, shortening the reins, lengthen the reins, as you're walking with the horse and figuring out this kind of dance, because it's a little bit like that, because you need to have the same contact. If you squeeze your fist, the horse needs to feel it. When you release your fist, it needs to feel it, because that's, it's the same. Otherwise, the horse, it's just like riding. You're just dropping the bit, and that means that you need to move along with the horse, which means that you also need to be fit enough to be able to keep up with the horse. And it's, it's not really any strength. We've long lined many horses, and our biceps are not giant. It's about the feel and that, But the equipment is crucial, for sure. Any other questions?
Starting maybe a 4-year-old that hasn't been started on her saddle yet, would you suggest long lining for a certain period of time before starting to ride?
There's, I could have a whole speech about how the whole starting process, because that is an art of its own, about like how do you blend the things together, where you introduce the saddle, the girth, and these things, and I believe that you do them in a kind of intertwined thing. It's not like you do this for X amount, this for X amount of time. Like, I don't, and again, you ask 10 people on a panel, you're probably going to get 10 different answers. But I believe that you really incorporate, a variety of the things, because you don't want the horse like too crazy fit before you actually get on it, because that's why, again, you start really the process of leaning on it, and the first or second day that you decide that the starting process starts. Absolutely, the long lining can be a huge part of the starting of the young horse, but it's not something that you group and things. That's my personal.
And I will just say that don't be too brave when you have a young international top bloodlines. I don't mention any bloodlines, but everybody know. And they say, now I'm going to start this in a classical way. I'm going out in the woods and I'm going to learn him leading reins. And you go out with the top one, and you go behind the horse, and then maybe you come home with one rein and not the horse. So that's very important that you do it in a classical way. Then you have to be inside, and but it's good to do it once a week, and then maybe a period when you feel the horse is little maybe tired, you can give more long lining sessions. But a mix of it is good all the time. But don't do that. A few persons have done here and in Sweden. They buy a nice equipment, and you are back in 4 weeks and say, how it's going. Well, you know that I haven't done it because it's too complicated, too long reins and too much. So I mean, if you now buy a new equipment here, practice, and you don't go into this to learn this if you don't practice, and with safe horses. But it's really fun when you can have the horse do what you like them to do, when you can see them collect the horse that you don't maybe think could collect, then you ask in the right way and the horse collect. So they will surprise you with the collection the day when they're strong enough. More questions?
Would you recommend starting on a lunging circle or in a round pen or in an arena?
Not too big arena. A round pen can be good if you have a young horse that is used to the round pen, and then you can go to fence around anyway.
All right, is this a wrap?
Now the fun stuff.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding. We have some raffle items.